generations. And now, the power of two restores the one.
We got a bidet. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are talking about the new big movie, Wicked, Part 1. They don't tell you that when you just see the preview, on TV or online or whatever. It took people going to the movie to, find out that it was Part 1. Maybe there was some rumblings about it before the movie came out, but I didn't hear about it until as of late. And we're going to go ahead and give you our thoughts, non-spoiler first, give it a rating, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail with the plot itself. I'm sure tons of you probably already know the plot because you've seen the musical, or I've heard the book is a bit different from the other stuff, so I'm not too sure how much that would, be one-to-one here with the movie, but there's a lot of similarities to the musical. So before we get into what we are going to talk about with our thoughts, just like a lot of our other videos, I think it's important to know where we're coming from, because there's people I think that are, very excited about this movie where they've seen the musical, they really want to see the movie version of it and all that stuff. They know every line of the music. Well, I have not read the book. I have not seen the musical. I did do a performance in high school in my with my band. Well, in the band, I shouldn't say my band. In the band for our marching band show, we did like a Wizard of Oz show, and a section of that was based off of Wicked. So that's about all that I have as far as knowledge of what the movie could be about. And honestly, I don't remember much about the music in general. I remember Defying Gravity. And I remember Wicked because every now and then my bandmates would be singing the music on the field as we were trying to learn drill and whatnot. But other than that, I had absolutely no idea what was in store for the movie. Sarah, where are you at with all that stuff?
I have never seen the musical. I did not read the book, but I am a Wizard of Oz fan, so that's why I wanted to try and see this movie.
Right. I mean, I am too. I very much enjoy the original. I really like it. I bought the book, and so one of these days I want to read it just to kind of see what the original story was for all this stuff. But needless to say, as you can hear from the both of us, we had nothing to walk into this movie with expectations, plot, music, characters, nothing. So we're going to have that person's point of view going into this discussion. So what were my thoughts of the movie? Well, the movie is two parts, right? And if you watched our channel before, I love the bad guys. And what I was hoping to see was, how does she turn into the Wicked Witch of the West, right? And that, I don't know if that's, I'm trying to avoid spoilers, but the majority of this movie is not that at all. The majority of this movie, because unfortunately, it was one of those where I was watching my watch to kind of see where are we at in the movie. Are we gonna see anything where she, shows that she's gonna be turning into this Wicked Witch of the West, or is that all gonna be for the second movie? And in the previews, we find out that Elphaba and Glinda are supposed to be friends, right? Well, they don't really become friends until halfway through the movie, literally. And the main event where Elphaba starts to turn into the Wicked Witch of the West isn't until like the last 20 minutes or so. So everything that I wanted to see is going to probably be in the second movie. And so that was kind of disappointing.
I'm in the same boat.
What I think really happened here, and I did do some reading. I looked up because, again, I'm very naive when it comes to what is supposed to be happening. So I wanted to get some knowledge, right? So I looked it up. I was trying to see what are the differences from the book? What are the differences from the musical? Are there any extra songs in here? Were there any taken out? There was no music numbers from what I've read that were added into this movie. They had thought about adding some new ones in, but after seeing the full, rendition of the movie, they decided it wasn't it didn't mesh well. They just wanted to take those out and let the movie be purely what fans are supposed to expect if you've seen the musical. The second movie is supposed to have some new musical numbers. There's supposed to be two of them, but this one, it was all purely from the musical. So what I kind of feel happened with this movie is for me as a moviegoer, what I watched, and I don't know how much I should be saying or should not, so I apologize if I overstep. But from what I witnessed is that the first 2 hours of the movie is kind of like a high school drama, and then the last 40, well, that's including credits. So last 30 minutes of the movie is, really starting to dive into this idea of the Wicked Witch of the West. And I think that's kind of what my problem with the movie was, is because the high school drama, yeah, it's a ton of character development for sure. But to me, I also wonder at what point is this too much fluff, right? Because the musical itself is 2.5 hours. This movie is 2 hours and 40 minutes plus the whole second movie. And from what I've read, this movie covers Act One from the musical. Act One. So there's probably at least three acts, because that's usually what you get out of a musical. And so this is only just the beginning part. So this movie has a ton of exposition and character development, but there's not a whole lot, in my opinion, that pays off to be a standalone film. I feel like if you kind of went the route of a 4 hour Lord of the Rings film and you did the whole thing in 4 hours, maybe that would be better. Because I mean, if this was 2 hours and 40 minutes and this is only like the first third of the musical, the next movie is guaranteed to be over 2 hours, probably the same amount of time, roughly in that 2 hours to 40 minutes. And so I feel like there's too much extra here. Uh, from what I've read, again, a lot of what's going on here is that yes, this is all in the musical. There's no like huge things that are added in here that will throw fans for a loop from the musical, but there's like these little pieces that they take from the musical and they just expand on them. So, for example, from what I've read, we don't know much about Elphaba's backstory from the musical, but they talk a bit about it here. We don't learn much about her sister in the musical, but she gets a significant amount of time and plot details here. So, I don't know how to feel about the movie. I want to feel excited for sure. I was excited to go see the movie, but I think at the end of the day, what I wanted wasn't there. And so that's why I kind of feel like I didn't really like the movie as much as I wanted to. And I apologize for that if you're a huge fan of the musical and the movie, but I think you got to see where I'm coming from on this, that I had zero expectations and just the thing that I wanted out of it, I definitely didn't get. So, I know I took a lot of time. I apologize, but Sarah, what did you think with your best not doing spoilers?
I feel like you covered it pretty well. The only thing that I'd like to add, or I guess two things, right? One thing they did well is I liked the colors of the movie. I
Mhm.
feel like everything was super vibrant. And so I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, I should have talked a bit more about what they did do well, because there are some things they do well. The acting is great. Uh, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
There's some of these things with these characters where I didn't. Part of me was like, is this really how this character is supposed to be? But at the same time, because they stick with being in character and they go the whole way with it, um, I just feel like I have to accept what it is, and then they did good with what I'm trying to say is, so Glinda's character, right? Ariana Grande. Looking at her character, and maybe she still has some changes to happen with the second movie, but it's hard for me to see where she is in this spot and where I know she's going, right? Because like when we meet Glinda in the original Wizard of Oz, I don't get this vibe at all of what her character is like. Um, she seems, very preppy. She's very much into, like, she's full of herself quite a bit as a character, and she always wants to get what she wants. Like she gets kind of upset when she doesn't get what she wants, and so I don't quite get it. But at the same time, if that's how it is in the musical, then she knocked it out of the park. You know what I mean? So it's kind of
See,
hard for me to feel what's going on there.
with her character, so sticking with her character, I could see how she becomes Glinda in Wizard of Oz. I've never thought of her portrayed as this way, as like, the preppy, get what she wants kind of person. But I could see her being that way in The Wizard of Oz and just not seeing that side of her. Like I could see that character being both. What annoyed me more was really just Ariana Grande. And it's not that I have anything against her. I like a lot of her music, but like for example, she had this really weird tick in the film, and I don't know why they didn't cut it. But she said, it'd be like asking, "What do you think?" Hmm. But then adding that after what she's saying, and she did it over and over and over, not just when she's asking a question, but like when she's saying a statement, maybe she's not quite sure of herself or what, I don't know. But just it drove me nuts how many times she was saying that. I'm just like, why are you saying this? I don't understand. I feel like maybe it's just because she's not a seasoned actress, or maybe that's something that she got from Sam and Cat when she used to do that character, because I feel like that's really the last major role that she's had, because again, she's normally in music, and I do like her from music. But haven't seen Sam and Cat, so I don't know if that's, what she did there or not. But I so that was one of the things that drove me kind of nuts. Just from the movie in general, I feel like it was way too long. Um, I haven't seen the musical, so I can't necessarily speak one to one, but I think it's probably a good thing that the musical is only 2.5 hours, whereas this movie was 2 hours, 45 minutes, and we only covered a portion of it because it dragged so hard for me. I got bored, and I hate to say that because I really wanted to enjoy this movie, and I know so many people have, and maybe a little bit of my issue is just the extreme popularity and overhyped, you know. But this movie just didn't do it for me. I liked little bits and pieces along the way, but I feel like we didn't really get anywhere from like a story perspective, or it took way too long to get to where I wanted to be because like Jeremy, I was also excited to focus more on Alphaba's character, the Wicked Witch, right? Um, in terms of her character development throughout the film, I did like her character more than Glinda, which was surprising to me because, I wasn't expecting Glinda to be the way that she was. But I don't know. It just thinking of what I typically like to think of when I'm rating a movie is, would I see it again? And for me, the answer is no. It's not something that I could see myself enjoying watching again. And that's sad to say because I was really excited for it. And my hope is that Wicked 2 or Part 2 or whatever it's going to be titled, is that that's going to be more my speed, because I feel like the ending of this film was a lot faster than how the majority of the film was paced.
Yeah, the last 30 minutes or so, I I was genuinely interested in what was happening. I was like, "Oh my God, like a switch just got flipped. Like this is good." And it's we get this
It's
from the
because of Jeff
trailer.
Goldblum, isn't it?
No, it's just they get to Oz, and this is the interesting stuff. That's why I was saying, like, I feel like the first 2 hours was like that high school drama, and at the same time, yeah, yes, we get to meet all these characters. We get to essentially almost every main character had a singing section, which if you really love musicals, I'm sure there's no such thing as too many songs. I like musicals, but there's definitely a balance in my opinion and a time and place for songs. And
I feel
so
like there was a lot of mass dancing that seemed out of place or not just maybe just not choreographed well. Like you think of some of the musicals that you and I have seen, and there, there's lots of scenes where there's a mass group of people dancing, but it just I don't know that it seemed more enjoyable in those other films. And the only one that's coming to mind at the moment is like Beauty and the Beast and like the mob scene, right? Or not the mob scene, but like the bar scene where they're all dancing together. There's more to that dance than there was in any of the group dances in this film. I feel like there wasn't anything like ooh or ah to goo goo gaga over, like any cool moves or just anything of interest,
the
really.
only thing I would say to that though is we haven't seen the musical, and if those dance numbers are coming straight from the musical, that could be the reason why. So,
Could
un
be.
unless we know for sure that there's no connection there, I wouldn't be willing to say that. But yeah, it's just there really wasn't one character that I was like, yeah, that was the character I really loved in this movie. Like for instance, Sarah didn't get to partake in this, but I got to partake in the Glicked event of the weekend. I went and saw Gladiator 2 and I saw Wicked. And in Gladiator 2, there is a character where I was like, yeah, when I see this person on screen, I love it. They're amazing. And, just it always left me on the edge of my seat to see what they were doing next. And I really don't think there was anybody here that did that. And I love Jeff Goldblum. I absolutely love Jeff Goldblum. He was one of the main reasons why I went and saw this movie. And
Or the 10 minutes he was in it.
yeah, he's not in it very much. He might be in it, a bit more in part two, potentially. But I do think the castings were pretty good, considering they all, from what I know, they all sing. So like Alphaba, Broadway singer, obviously Ariana Grande, music artist, Jeff Goldblum, music artist. So there's a
He's a
lot
music
of,
artist?
he is.
I did not know that.
Yep. Uh, and so I feel like they did have a lot of people in there that, they could sing, so that was great. But there wasn't a whole lot there that I really, really, like I said, I'm looking forward to the second movie, not because the first one was great, but because I think the second one's gonna have what I want. And so unfortunately, that's kind of where I'm at with it. So, however, because we're about to give ratings here in a second, I'm not gonna put my opinion too much into my rating. I'm gonna try to be more critically thinking here, trying to be not biased in my opinion. And when I say that, I've said a lot of things that I didn't really like in the movie, but I think at the end of the day that this movie is above average. I don't think this movie is below average by any means, and I think
Would you watch it again?
no. But there's plenty of movies that are above average that I wouldn't want to watch. Um, so I think coming out of the theater, I was thinking a 6, but the more I think about it, I think I'm going to be at a 7. It is above average for me. It's not necessarily for me, but I do think for what it's trying to do, I think it is above average. I don't know. I'm torn. But I don't my like if I were to go, this movie is a 4, my gut is like, you better put those words back in your mouth. It's not a 4. So not
It's
to
funny
me.
you say that because that's what I'm giving it as a 4. I wanted to give it a 3, but I don't know that I can see it's hard because
There's a lot
even
of there's a lot of care that went into this movie. People do care about it, like the people that made it. 100%.
and I think that's probably what's pulling me from a 3 to a 4 is because as much as I didn't really like it, and I definitely would not watch it again, and I feel like it was way too long, and honestly, I'm just gonna be blunt, quite boring for a lot of the film. The aesthetics of things, I think, is a huge part of what's pulling me up on my rating because it did look really nice.
It was cool to see what the land of Oz looked like.
But yeah, I can't give it above a 4. I don't think it's above average. I I just can't.
Well, I mean, it's our opinions, right? So, like I said, I was kind of in that 6 range, but I think realistically it's around a 7 for me. But okay, we're gonna talk about, we went like double time for the non-spoiler section, but we're gonna go ahead and talk about some of the plot points here. If you've seen the musical, there's a good chance that you know what happened here. But like we said, the movie follows the story of Elphaba, essentially. We do get the movie kicks off, and this is actually kind of what made me a bit more excited when the movie started. The movie starts with the ending of Wizard of Oz. So, we know the Wicked Witch is dead. We see her hat in a puddle of water, and there's like a very fast camera movement where we see, the main heroes from the Wizard of Oz being, Dorothy, Tin Man, Scarecrow, Lion, and Toto. They're all running back to the city of Oz and or Emerald City, not the city of Oz, Emerald City. And then we see a little celebration in Munchkin Land where Glenda comes and delivers the news. They're all partying. They're even, burning a big thing that looks like the Wicked Witch of the West. And essentially, after all this partying is going on, a girl, right before Glenda is about to go away, the girl comes out and she goes, "Weren't you her friend? Is that true?" And then that's what propels us back into um, the before this time, because this movie is a prequel, even though it starts off kind of after the original. Um, so then we start to learn about Elphaba. Her sister is going to school, and she is kind of a tag along just to kind of watch over her. But through an event where when she is dropped off at school and they go to this little speech thing, Elphaba gets really upset and she, uses her magic to do some things out of anger, and then she gets admitted into the school that way. From what I've heard, the musical, she's actually supposed to be attending the school, but in this one, she's not. She's supposed to just watch over her sister, make sure her sister ends up all right, because her sister's in a wheelchair, and then carry on from there. But yeah, so she's supposed to be part of the school. We meet Glinda. Glinda is the like popular girl at school essentially that gets whatever she wants, very full of herself. And there's kind of this tension back and forth a little bit. Not tension in the way of they're like in each other's face, but you can definitely tell that they're polar opposites, like they're two magnets trying to push away from each other.
I mean, they
Um,
basically have a song about how much they loathe each other.
Yeah. So we get a lot of character development between these two because eventually they become friends, right? Um, we also learn about the plot where in Oz, the animals used to be teachers at this school, but they're being pushed out one by one. Their teacher for the class that we do get to see is a goat, voiced by Peter Dinklage, so that was kind of cool. If you aren't aware of who that is, Tyrion from Game of Thrones. And that we see more and more of this stuff going on with the animals. There's even a scene where our teacher character is meeting with other animals saying, "Hey, we got to get out of here because we're being targeted by these people." So that's kind of something that's going on in the background a little bit, but aside from, Glinda and Alphaba trying to eventually become friends. Uh, and their friendship eventually becomes a thing when Glinda gives Alphaba a hat that was from her grandma that she wants to basically throw away. She says, I don't hate anybody enough to give this to them. And then she gives it to Elphaba. And so Glinda goes to the dance. There's a like a school dance that they're going to, a ball. And Glinda and her friends go there, and Alphaba shows up a little late, and Alphaba tries to go in there, and uh, right away, people are like gasp that she's there. She goes in the middle of everybody and does her own dance while people stare at her. And this is kind of when Glinda becomes friends with Alphaba because she's like, all these people are looking at her funny. They're like thinking this is a joke. I need to go in there and help her out.
And she finally feels pity for her because she knows that Elphaba talked to the sorcerer professor to get Glinda into the special sorcerer class.
Yeah, which could be a reason of tension between Glinda and Alphaba because Glinda wants that class, right? But while leading up to this dance, Alphaba was getting all of the attention for from this teacher that Glinda really wanted to work with. And so Glinda kept seeing Alphaba with this teacher and being like, "Man, I wish that was me. I get everything I want, and this is one thing I'm not going to get." And then come to find out, it's Alphaba that gets her this opportunity. But the teacher makes it very clear that, she's only doing this because if she doesn't, then Alphaba will leave and not be a part of the teachings. And so she's like, I'll help you, but really, I care about Alphaba. I don't care about you.
Yep.
Well, let's see. Is he a prince? What's that one guy's name?
Fiero? I think it's just his name is Fiero. He's not,
Fiero?
yeah.
Okay, I don't see him on the. Oh, there he is, Fiero. So there's this love interest, Fiero, that comes in. He might end up playing more of a role in part two, because us as the viewers, we get to see that he's kind of playing these two girls, right? Glinda really wants him, but he seems to be more attracted to Elphaba, but he's kind of going along with this Glinda relationship, even to the point where they kiss. And before Elphaba eventually goes to the Emerald City, he shows up to say goodbye, and Glenda's kind of like, he's acting strange, and she kind of feels like there's something going on here with him being weird with Elphaba. And so I'm kind of wondering if in part two, uh, Glinda finds out about Elphaba and this guy, and that's kind of what drives them further apart. But because they're not BFFs in The Wizard of Oz, you know?
Yeah. Well, they had this weird scene when Dr. Dillmond, the goat professor, when he was being taken away by the authorities, and then the new professor was introducing, this little snow leopard cub who was in a cage and the idea of a cage and, so that way the animals can't talk and stuff like that. And
I thought that was a lion.
maybe it was, but I thought it was a snow leopard.
The reason why I thought it was a lion is because I thought that might be either a nod. I don't know if it's lore, but at least an Easter egg. I thought that was supposed to be the Cowardly Lion.
I feel like I remember it looking like a snow leopard.
And the reason why I think that is because, like, I think it was Alphaba deliberately says, "You look scared." I was thinking, oh, Cowardly Lion. Anyways, what were you saying?
Uh, Sorry, I was trying to Google Wicked Snow Leopard and it did not come up with the movie. It just came up with a bunch of snow leopards, so that didn't help.
Nice.
Um, but
Be
anyway,
careful what you type in with Wicked.
this is true. Um, when Elphaba wanted to save this animal, I'll say, She used the poppies to kind of put everybody to sleep in like a nap, which
Which I
is a
saw
little
that
bit of,
I
huh?
saw that's a difference between the movie and the musical.
Okay. What I was going to say is that it's kind of like a nod to The Wizard of Oz because when they're going through the poppy field, they fall asleep. Um, but anyway, so everybody in the class falls asleep except for Figaro. And he later asks her, like, why did you keep me awake compared to everybody else? And she didn't really have an answer because she doesn't have control of her magic yet or her sorcery. But that's the weird connection that I think Glinda's kind of picking up on but doesn't know about is like almost like there's a secret, but I don't know what it is.
There's something about this guy.
Yep.
Yeah. There was another Easter egg right after that where they put the little lion or snow leopard, whatever it is, in a basket and she rides away on a bike, which is kind of like the one lady in The Wizard of Oz. I forget her name, but she's like the evil lady that nobody likes in the black and white part of the film.
She's like the Wicked Witch, but she's not the Wicked Witch. Yeah.
Yeah. Mrs. Stroop or something like that. I don't know. I don't know her name. So they become friends, and then eventually the 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 teacher lady that Elphaba really wants to, or not Elphaba, Glinda really wanted to learn from, Madame Morrible. She sends off a letter to Oz saying something's urgent. We really don't know what it is. We just see an envelope with his name on it. And a little like toy Oz comes in a little hot air balloon to deliver a message as an invitation to Elphaba to come to Emerald City to meet him. And she is supposed to, what I thought was interesting, at the bottom of the invitation it said non-transferable, like meaning she can't give the invitation to somebody else. And so I had wondered if there was going to be this interesting thing that plays out where so Elphaba gets on the train to go to Emerald City, and then she tells Glinda to go with her. She, I figured she's not supposed to because of the thing being addressed to Glinda or to Elphaba, and that kind of told me that she was the only one that was supposed to go. And so I had wondered if, once Glinda and her show up, I had wondered if the wizard was going to be pissed about something and then, there was going to be repercussions. And that's what, sends the Wicked Witch over the edge. But nothing like that happened. It's like almost as if he didn't care that she was there, but I
Yeah,
thought it was weird.
I thought it was weird they emphasized the non-transferable part of it.
Yeah.
And then it played out for nothing because again, I like you, I thought I knew she got on the train because we see that in the preview, but I figured once they got there that she'd just be like in an Emerald City and not actually get to see the wizard with Alphaba, but that's not the case. They don't even care that she's there. They're like, "Oh, okay, just and guest. Okay, whatever."
Yeah, like in The Wizard of Oz, when they get to the city and that dude at the door is like, "You can't come in here. The wizard's not here." And it took a couple of times to him to actually let them into the city. I thought when they got there and they were gonna go see the wizard, I thought that's what the dude at the door was gonna say was like, "Present your invitations." And then she showed the invitation saying Alphaba, but Glinda didn't have one, so I thought he was gonna say, "You can't come in." And then that would have been another thing to, you know, that's the kind of drama that I was hoping for, as opposed to like the high school type drama that we got. There was things that definitely seemed like they could happen, but they didn't. Um, so they're allowed in. Oh,
I was just gonna say, if they wanted it to be fine that she went in, I wish they would have just not even shown the non-transferable part. Like you could have just
right,
cut that, and it would have made it make more sense.
right. Or a plus one. Something, I don't know. It just made no sense to have non-transferable. It's like, well, if it's non-transferable, that means you want one person to show up.
And it only Alphaba, nobody else.
So it's just I don't know. People are gonna hate us for nitpicking that. Um, So she gets to go meet the wizard. The big face thing comes out, and us as the audience, we know that that's not really the wizard. But once he finds out that it is, in fact, Elphaba who he sent for, then he comes out and says, oh, it's me. This is all, just like a facade. He's supposed to be the great and powerful, so that's why he looks menacing with this thing. Um, and they get to know each other a little bit. He shows them his plans for Oz, which is the diorama looking thing behind Sarah. And he asks them, I have all these details. I'm not quite sure on this one detail, and he doesn't know what color the road should be. And so he's flipping through the different colors, and Elphaba and Glinda decide on yellow. And so just a little me thinking, again, I haven't seen the musical, but I've seen the other movie. So one of the things I had thought about in this scene was, well, they're going to show this yellow brick road. But if you've seen the original, when
Dorothy.
Dorothy meets Scarecrow, there there is a spot in the track where it splits. And one way is the yellow brick road, and the other way is the reddish, brownish color road.
I think
And
it's in Munchkin Land when they see the two, and that's when they say to do the Yellow Brick Road.
right, but there, what I'm trying to say is there's two different color roads.
Yeah.
And they explain the yellow one here, but they don't explain the other color. So maybe that's in part two. But for now, this was being said that that's what all of the roads are going to be. Maybe, maybe what ends up happening is that he makes all the roads yellow, but then makes the roads to her castle red, and that's supposed to be a warning? Maybe? Like
That's kind of what my thinking is,
don't go
yeah.
too far down this road kind of a thing. I don't know. So turns out that the reason why that everybody thinks that Oz is the great and powerful is because he can read this special book, and turns out he really can't. He was faking it. And the reason why he wants Elphaba there is because maybe she can, and then they can just rule together. And so she can, in fact, read the book. When she does, she makes things go crazy and makes the monkey servant people grow wings, which are probably the monkeys we see in the original, right?
Yep. That was
And
a dirty trick by the wizard because he tried to insinuate that the monkey had told him he wanted to fly, and we've set a precedence in this movie that the animals can talk, but these ones never do. So we don't even know if they actually wanted wings or not. But because the wizard said that they did, she trusted him. And I don't blame her for trusting him because, he's supposed to be the great and powerful, but like that was a dirty trick.
yeah. And then she decides to go against him, doesn't want to rule with him because she thinks he's a big fat liar. And so she decides to take the book and she tries to run away. And in doing so, uh, let's see, what was her name again? Madame Morrible. She was
Yep.
there too. And what she does is she tells the monkeys, hey, that green lady over there, she did this to you, and she was the one that's being mean to you. So you have to go and get her and bring her before Oz, essentially. And so now the monkeys are chasing after her. And we get this scene where Glinda and uh, Elphaba are running through Oz, and the monkeys are trying to like smash the glass and get at them and stuff, which startled my sister at the movies. So if that got you, you're not the only one.
Made
But
me jump too.
they try to Grand Theft Auto, the Oz Great and Powerful's hot air balloon, and try to escape on it, and they can't because the guards shut the top where it could get out, and it pops the balloon, and they run away, and they barricade a door. Now, this is something that this could be a nitpick, and I apologize, but it does bother me. So when they get in the door to this final area, Elphaba picks up a broom and barricades the door. And I was like, man, is that the broom that she's supposed to get? and that's kind of cool. But she puts the broom in the barricade, and then she wheels over the potions thing that I'm pretty sure that the that Oz had in the original, his little cart that he would sell things on, and then she rolls that in front of the door. And later on, when the guards break in, they have to break the um the broom, but I think the broom falls off. It has to, because it's not
She
broken.
she before she knows she can fly, it's like she knocks the I think her powers is what took the broom off the door because the broom went off the door, it went onto the floor, it went towards the center of the room, and then it drifted up to the ceiling to where she was.
Right, but the second thing that she put the potions cart that she puts in front of the door, she doesn't put it right up against the door. She puts it like a little bit in front of it. And so it's really weird. I'm pretty sure when the guards break in, they don't even knock it over. It just moves it's out of the way.
I didn't remember seeing her put the cart in front of it, but once the broom was gone, to me, I thought the door was no longer barricaded and they
Right.
still had to break in. And I didn't understand why they had to break in if the broom wasn't holding the door shut anymore.
That's exactly how I felt. I was like, wait, what's holding the door if the broom isn't there?
Like
So
I was expecting them to think that the door was locked, not knowing that the broom had been moved. And then I was expecting them to all fall flat on their faces as they tried to ram the door, not needing to ram it. But then that didn't happen.
right, it doesn't make total sense. And then from here, basically Glenda and Elphaba are bickering back and forth. Turns out Glenda doesn't want to be a part of this stuff, and so she doesn't go with Elphaba. Elphaba hops on that broom, flies off into the distance, and that's basically it.
Two things that I thought were not my favorite with this scene, okay? One being all the time that she's flying with a broom, except for the very last scene of her flying away. So, she's falling. She finally realizes that she can grab the broom and that she can fly with it and stuff. But half the time, she's flying just with it in her hand. She's not actually riding on it. Or it's like she's riding on it, but it's next to her leg, not between her legs. And it just seems really weird. Anytime you ever see somebody flying with a broom, it's because they're sitting on it, and she didn't really sit on it until the very end. So I thought that was kind of funny. Um, Glinda had also given her this like robe or cloak or cape, whatever you want to call it, that was pretty much from her standing down to the floor, maybe floor length, we'll call it. Um, and so when she's flying, when she's like hovering in front of, I think it's Glinda, and it's whipping in the wind like crazy. Like, honestly, it looks like somebody's holding it behind her and just waving it in the air, like as if you were waving a sheet trying to fold it. It looked really, really weird. But size wise, maybe reaches the floor when she's standing on the floor, okay? And then, like 2 minutes later, as she's flying, this thing is gigantic, like the biggest cape you've ever seen, like 100 feet long. I don't know. I don't know what happened to it, but it grew in size really big.
Edna would not be happy.
No capes.
Trying to think if there's any I will say there were definitely musical moments that I thought were really good. Like here at the end with Defying Gravity. That's a big song from this movie. It was a really great sequence. In the very beginning, I thought that beginning sequence was great when the Munchkins found out that the witch was dead and they were doing their whole thing with trying to burn the big thing that looked like the Wicked Witch. I thought that was great. And there was like one or two in the middle that I thought were good too. But there was a lot of songs that was in this movie. And again, it really makes me wonder like if none of these songs were new, if they're all in the play. Granted, the play or musical. I should be calling it a musical. I'm sorry. Granted, the musical is 2.5 hours. So if you take all the songs from this one, plus whatever songs that would be in the second movie, minus the two that are new, but all the songs that are in the second movie, if you took more songs and put it in this time frame, is the musical really like bang, 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 pure music? I mean, I feel like there wouldn't be enough time to breathe for the story.
I think, and I did not research this, so I can't say for sure, but I think maybe what happened is that the main songs, there were no main songs added, and maybe there's just a lot of reprises or things that were sung instead of said. Whereas, think of how much longer this movie is compared to the musical itself. They had to add a lot of screen time. And so that's a lot of scenes that are not even in the musical.
Hmm.
And I think it's unfair to think that all of those scenes that are not in the musical, that none of them had music. Because I think at least some of the scenes that are new to the movie had music or singing. And so I think it's impossible for them to not be new songs. And maybe they're just not considered new songs per se because they're just like, is singing two lines really a song? Not really, but a lot of the music that was added or scenes that were added that had music in them, um, I think probably fall in that category. And I know I can't say for sure because I didn't see the musical, but uh, there was a lot of times throughout the whole film where they were only singing a line or two or three and not an actual song.
Yeah, I know what you mean by that, but I don't know. I do look forward to the second movie. I think the second one, well, I guess I don't know what happens in the musical. Maybe the second half isn't what I'm hoping it to be. But if the second movie is more about her being evil, then I look forward to that more. Because I really don't feel like there was hardly even an enemy. Like, yes, the bad guy, quote unquote, is whoever is against these animals being a part of society. Yes, the wizard lied to the people about what he can do, but would you
Well, I
call him a
think
villain?
the whole,
Who's
the,
the villain of this movie, Sarah?
I would say it's the wizard for two different reasons, right? One is he had that line in the preview about how do you get people to rally together? You give them a good villain to root against, right? But that's why I think he's painting Alphaba to be that way because she's not following his plan. But secondly, the reason why she is against him is because he's the one that didn't want animals to be part of society and was wanting them to be in cages and whatnot. But saying that out loud now, I'm not sure how that makes sense with him having the monkeys as guards. But I thought that that's why she didn't like him anymore was because of that.
I don't remember. I don't know. I guess maybe my feeling is I don't feel like anybody was like a villain. I don't know how to put it in terms. There's no person where I'm like, yep, that's the villain. This is why they're terrible. I just kind of feel like everybody is, they're not all protagonists. There's protagonists and then there's like neutral people, but I feel like there's nobody that's like incredibly evil. Not yet.
We'll see.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see. Or maybe I just sound like someone that's just talking out of their butt because I've never seen the musical. But it is what it is. And that's, coming from people that haven't seen the musical, haven't read the book, yada, yada, yada. That's just our opinion and our interpretation. So if you enjoyed this type of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We got plenty of other movie reviews coming out the rest of the year. Some of them that I am looking forward to. Mufasa, Nosferatu. I We're gonna try to see Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim. It's very, very limited in our area, so may or may not be able to see that, but I really want to.
Don't forget the most recent one that we're gonna see next, which is Moana 2.
Moana 2. Looking forward to that. I'm excited. So, still lots to come this year, so make sure to check back here. Drops a like if you liked the video, and drops a comment letting us know your thoughts on Wicked Part 1. And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.